Welcome friends to the Do Less Be More channel. I'm Amy, and in today's video I want to explain why self-care is not going to help you cure your burnout. As amazing and as necessary as the practice of self-care is, it's not the cure-all solution when it comes to dealing with burnout. So self-care is super cliche these days. You see it everywhere. And so I thought that a good place to start off would be to understand what self-care really means. Now, the self-care definition that is quoted in nearly every article returned in a Google search uses the World Health Organization's definition. And being that I'm not entirely convinced that Bill Gates is the guy I trust as a promoter of self-care or preventing things like burnout, I've come up with my own definition of self-care. So here it is. Self-care is a routine commitment of giving yourself nourishing love, attention, and energy so that you are able to meet your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs first and foremost, which will then enable you to show up in the world from a place of true alignment as your very best self in a sustainable way. Now, when we aren't practicing this routine holistic commitment that we call self-care, the stress we experience in our day-to-day piles up. If the stress is not counteracted with self-care practices or managed in a healthy way, eventually the stress becomes chronic and without active prevention turns into burnout. Burnout is the result of prolonged emotional and mental and physical distress. Of course, if you are burnt out, devoting time now to nourish yourself through self-care practices is absolutely important and it will help. I'm not saying don't engage in intentional self-care now that you're burnt out, but I am saying that self-care is meant to serve a different purpose. It is not the burnout cure-all, and there are factors to consider when attempting to use self-care as your means to resolving burnout. So keeping this in mind, let's look at 3 reasons why I believe self-care alone won't get you out of burnout. Number 1, self-care is preventative maintenance, okay? So self-care is great, but if you're burnt out, it's kind of too late. If you're burnt out, a foot rub or a mini vacation just isn't going to cut it at this point. Burnout is the result of prolonged emotional and mental distress, right? A sign that self-care has actually been long forgotten. Regular self-care is a great preventative measure for managing stress, but it's not the magical cure once you're already burnt out. While the massage certainly won't hurt, when you're burnt out, it's too late for self-care. You're going to need to go much deeper than the skin and muscles. You've got some serious mental and emotional reframing work to do. Number 2, self-care masks the symptoms instead of figuring out the root cause. If you're already burnt out, self-care is like the ibuprofen you take to temporarily mask the headache. Instead of tackling the symptoms, you need to address the root cause of your burnout. You need to determine how you've been operating out of alignment that has caused you to get into this place of burnout. So, who are you being? Where are your actions and thought patterns not matched to your value system? What perspective shift do you need to make to motivate sustainable behavior change that will support your overall well-being? When you're burnt out, self-care is simply a band-aid solution when you're really needing to understand why you're here in the first place. Okay. And number 3, self-care requires other care. The only way that you will be able to successfully fit in truly replenishing self-care time is if the people around you value your well-being as much as you do theirs. This means they are committed to creating a supportive, protective bubble around you so that you can completely surrender into self-care without interruption. It takes collaborative effort and resolve from your village, so your team, your family, your friends, to protect your me time when you are the one that typically everyone else relies on. When the giver or the helper is burnt out, self-care is not the answer, other care is, as in others caring for you. So to recap, the reasons why self-care is not the cure for burnout. Number 1, self-care is designed to be preventative maintenance. Number 2, self-care masks the symptoms instead of figuring out the root cause. Okay, we got to get into self-awareness there. And number 3, self-care requires other care to be truly effective, especially in times of burnout. Remember, self-care is a routine commitment of giving yourself nourishing love, attention, and energy so that you're able to meet your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs first and foremost, which will then enable you to show up in the world from a place of true alignment as your very best self in a sustainable way. And if you're in burnout, it's time for your village to support you. Ask for and graciously receive the help. Join a support group like the Women's Burnout Support Group. You can check out the link in the description of this video, or hire a professional therapist or burnout coach. Get the support you deserve because we are all in this together. Please say hi in the comments. Let me know what you think and how you're doing. Give this video a like and be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on the weekly videos to support you on your own Do Less, Be More journey. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.